It could so easily have been different. Can you imagine if he had been consumed by bitterness?
I don't think that in the last century there have been many people that could ever compete with the value and the profile of an individual like Nelson Mandela.
He has an authority that probably nobody else in the world has.
He will be an inspiration to people hundreds of years from now.
He's probably will be remembered as the greatest historical figure of this era.
Nelson Mandela's long walk, forever remembered. But it was the decision for the ANC to sponsor military action that started that very walk. This, his first ever television interview in 1961.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence against a government whose reply is only savage attacks on an unarmed and defenseless people. And I think the time has come for us to consider, in the light of our experiences in this stay at home, whether the methods which we have applied so far are adequate.
Mandela was head of the armed wing of the ANC. He was arrested, charged, tried and sentenced to a life in jail. 27 years, many spent on Robben Island. He left behind his family and his friends.
People say, oh, what a waste, 27 years. And I have to say, no, I disagree. When he went to jail, he was an angry young man. And it took the 27 years for him to mellow.
People did protest to end his incarceration. But for a long time, the right people didn't listen. And then, on his own terms, Nelson Mandela was released. And then, without even a trace of malice, he forgave his captors.
In prison, there have been men, who are very good in the sense that they understand our point of view, and they do everything to try and make you as happy as possible. And that has wiped out any bitterness which a man could have.
And so he looked forward, pressing for South Africa's first totally free, multiracial elections. Mandela and the man that set him free, Frederick de Klerk, received the Nobel Peace Prize in 1993. They weren't always the best of friends, but they did achieve the first totally open and free election in their country. Now in charge of the ANC, Mandela campaigned for presidency in his now familiar manner, stressing reconciliation, forgiveness. Nelson Mandela became the president of South Africa, not by force, but with a dance.
Never and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another.
The country went on to host and then win the Rugby World Cup. A sport synonymous with whites. Now the crowd, if not the whole country, was chanting his name. Never has a politician been quite so popular in his lifetime. The first former prisoner to stay at Buckingham Palace, flirting with Ginger Spice.
You're not old, you're as young as the girl you feel, and I'm 25.
I'll take that up, yeah?
And then immortalised in a film directed by Clint Eastwood and starring the man Mandela chose to play him, Morgan Freeman.
Because in order to build our nation, we must all exceed our own expectations.
After one term as president, he retired. But such was his immense popularity, he was even forced to retire from retirement, reducing his public appearances, but letting people down gently.
Don't call me. I'll call you.
His 90th birthday was celebrated with a concert in London, but his life is littered with tragedy. One son died of AIDS, another in a car crash when he was still in jail, and his great-granddaughter, Zanani, was killed in a car crash on her way back from the World Cup opening party. He didn't face the crowds until the final.
There is an incredible amount of evil in the world. But you know what? There's also an incredible amount of good. And in the end, good will prevail.